And welcome back to another episode of Patriarchy Principles, the podcast where we dive deep into the intersection of faith, family, leadership, and fatherhood. I'm your host, Jay, and today we're focusing on a topic that is crucial, absolutely a number one necessity for every father and every leader of the household: finances. Our first conversation about finances, I think, really ever, maybe first or second when it comes on to the Young Dad podcast feed in general, and the very first of Patriarchy Principles. So I'm super excited to have joining me today is Jaime, the financial enabler. Jaime is passionate about empowering families, especially fathers, to take control of their financial future. He believes that understanding and managing finances is not just about numbers, it's about providing security, opportunities, and a lasting legacy for your children. While we don't have more to say about him today, we're going to jump into his knowledge on finances, teaching kids about money, and the practical steps fathers can take to improve their financial situation. And there's a lot of things you can do, and they can start today. So whether you're looking to get out of debt, teach your kids the value of a dollar, or build a financial foundation for your family's future, this episode is 100% for you. So Jaime, welcome to the show today.
Dude, I am so excited to be here. I'm telling you, I didn't know how I was excited until you just did that introduction. And I'm going to tell everybody that the reason he doesn't have more is my fault. I forgot to text him back, got in a rhythm, and I didn't message back. So that's my bust. I'm going to give you guys a quick download before we go to it, if you don't mind me, so that people know.
Of course, man. No, please tell us about you, your background. I know that you are either retired military or still current or active duty.
I'm still active duty.
Or reservist. So I wasn't sure about that. But yeah, so thank you for your service, first and foremost. I love our veterans. I love our active duty, retired, and reservist members of our armed services. So thank you, and to all of our active duty and deployed servicemen and women. Of course, thank you for your service too.
Thank you for making it a deal, because it's important. It's a big part of our nation, right? So, so everybody knows, I am a Marine EOD tech. I have 4 more months till I retire. I'll be out at the end of January. I've had a great run, spend most of my time in special operations. I currently live in New Mexico. I teach at the Defense Nuclear Weapons School, but now my focus is finance. After, a short version of it all is I got my second divorce. I realized I needed to become a better man, which I'll throw a shout out to something here at some point, and something that helped me. Actually, I'm going to say right now, it's like after my second divorce, I found this program called Strong Men, Strong Marriages. And that program was game changer. I paid the dollars for this guy, and I'll say it because it was best. He said, I cannot promise I'm going to save your marriage. I can promise you're going to be a better man. And he lived up to it. I didn't save my marriage, but that started the whole change for me. Part of that change was I wanted to do something good for the world, and I came up with a financial enabler, and I launched the page, and I am beyond blessed. From that opportunity, I started getting contacted by a lot of very successful people that have done a lot of great things in finance, and now I'm here. Now I'm putting out this information to the world, and dude, I am so excited to be here. Like faith, family, leadership, and fatherhood. I almost want to throw in faith, family, finance, leadership, and fatherhood.
Hey, let's go.
Hey. So it's so important, right? Because and I'll say this: I don't care whatever it is you want in your life. You can throw more money into it; it will be better. And if you're a man of faith, I've been racking this. I'm gonna get it out of the way. Somebody's gonna say that. Don't quote me on the verse, because I'm not on the top of it. That a rich man, what is it? That if a camel cannot walk through the eye of a needle, that has more chance than making it to heaven. I have it right here. And guys, I swear that my Christianity right now is showing. I need to refine it. Somebody literally just posted in my page. Here it is. It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter through the kingdom of heaven. But I will ask, who was taking care of the apostles when their travels? I will ask, if you're rich, that's probably because you're a rich prick. But if you're grabbing your wealth and you're feeding congregations and you're helping people and you're helping the world around you, I'm pretty sure that God still wants us in abundance.
Absolutely. And, the apostles, interesting you bring up the apostles, because they were rather self-sufficient. They all had careers. They all had money. They all had real well-paying jobs and careers. Carpenters and cattlemen, farmers, they all had fishermen. like they made money, like they had money, like they weren't poor men, you know.
No.
So they were able to self-sufficient for their journeys and whatnot, and they relied on each other. They got their money together. They sold off their possessions, which gave them more money,
Yeah.
and they dedicated their lives to serving. That's an important part. It's really not about how much money you have, right? It's about what you do with it. It's
Yeah.
about how you use it, and what benefit does that money have to you if it's only used on yourself versus if you're going out and feeding people or helping people or making a difference, or I'll throw this out there because we're on this platform of Patriarchy Principles, or if you're being in the White House for 4 years, never taking a salary,
Yep.
and that money goes back into who knows what else, and you do all these different things with your money as a presidential candidate versus having Bill Gates, who then is now standing on a trial in the Netherlands after donating 50 million to one campaign versus the other kind of thing. So it's just very interesting, kind of where the money goes. Words talk, numbers scream, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so numbers talk really, really loud. And you look at Kalshi, or what is it called, Kalashi or something, the new like platform to where you can like live bet on the
Oh yeah,
election.
yeah, yeah. You're betting that, right? That
Yeah,
one?
it's like there's like a betting, there's like an official betting one. It's
Yeah.
starts with a K. I want to say it's
Yeah,
like Kalashi or something, but
I think you're
yeah,
right because I did hear about that.
but the numbers scream, scream, and numbers are screaming today in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, here it is.
We
Kalshi.
Kalshi, that's it. And you can see on there every day that's updated, and the two sides go further and further apart. And if you're listening to this podcast, then you know what side I'm talking about that keeps going up and the one that keeps going down. And so it's really cool to see. But numbers scream. These numbers mean something. When people are putting their money somewhere, that means they're doing something to ensure that their money is going to come back to them in some way, shape, or form. And so, words talk, numbers scream. Numbers scream, and our numbers scream in our faces every day. Every day when we go to the store, every day when we go to the gas pump, every day when we buy clothes, every day when we go to, some kind of entertainment, like the numbers scream at us. When we look at our bank account, those numbers are very loud when we look at them. So this will be very interesting
For
to get
sure.
into there. But yeah,
For
as we
sure.
talk about numbers.
Yeah, and dude, I'm totally with you that what we do with our money. I always get in I'm not gonna say argument conversations with people that are trying to almost elude that they don't need more money. And I'm like, great, sure you don't need more money. Now, what happens when your mom has cancer? You wish you had more money? Yeah, but that's not what no, that's exactly what I'm getting at. If you are going to be a head of household and your family is sick and you have to depend on a crappy health program, that's all of a sudden money is all you need. I hate to break it. When it comes to healthcare, money fixes 90% of the issues, right? Or you extend the livelihood or the quality of life. So when people try to argue with me that they don't need more money, I was like, great, you got to sleep with this. I am not going to sleep with that. I want to have enough wealth that when my girlfriend has a medical concern that I can be like, no biggie, babe, let's go here. No drama.
Mm-hmm.
Not even worried about it. Right? So it's not about a Ferrari. It's not about a bigger house, right? It's about the impact that you want to have on the world, right? Whether it's your family, whether it's the government, right? I hate to break it. At the end of the day, you want to impact more on the government? Let's just throw money at the problem. Whether you take it away or you put it in, right? Take it away or put it in. So that's where finances comes in. It's about creating that freedom. And dude, again, with this podcast, you want to have be a better dad. We just gotta learn more, right? And unfortunately, this is the world we live in. It's a means of trade, right? If you could buy more knowledge, you could be a better father, right? You can be.
Yes, absolutely. And you can buy knowledge. You can get knowledge, basically for free at this point, and where we're at with all the technology and everything that's out there on the world and the internet, and with AI and everything. Like, there's a lot of really cool tools that you can use to get ahead in pretty much any field that you want by just doing some work and spending a few hours a week, honestly, to get ahead and get into it. AI
Yeah.
is a great resource, and they have tailored AI, these large language learning models, AI, that you can learn pretty much anything you want, and they're tailored to exactly what you want to learn. If you want to
Yeah,
learn more about psychology and mental health, you can find one for that. If you want to learn more about finances, you can learn one about that. If you want to learn one more about science and technology and engineering and math, there's one for that. And so there's something out there for everybody in all
for
these
sure.
different fields, which is really cool, which is really important. But I wanted to get your opinion on something. So
Yeah.
start off here. It was either I've seen it on X mostly today. So today's October 24th, and this is coming out just days after. Let me see. I think this is coming out the week of the election, or just right after the election. So right around there, and so we don't know who's the winner at this point. And but something that Trump had said today that he's been flirting with is this idea to abolish income tax all across the country, to abolish income tax, abolish the IRS, and to basically tariffs would run the would pay for the government more or less, which also implies that a lot of the government would probably be toast and cooked anyways if he's elected, because he wants to abolish a lot of these useless departments and drain the
Yeah.
swamp and get rid of these enemies from within. When he says
Yeah.
enemies from within, that's what he means. He means the enemies from within Washington D.C. He doesn't mean
Yeah.
you, the American people. Don't buy that bullshit. Uh, but he means the enemies from within Washington D.C. From the financial standpoint on that, what does that mean? Is that something that's even possible,
Mm,
legitimate? Because I
mm.
know it gets people really excited. They hear, "Oh, no income tax. I'm gonna get 30, 40% of my check back."
Yeah.
And so you get really excited by those things. But it also means, so what does that mean really in like reality?
So this is a macroeconomic question. So don't quote me if I'm wrong. So a lot of this is going to be my opinion. So if it's
Okay.
based on tariffs only, right? We put our tariffs on imports and exports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, on imports. So I don't see us be surviving as a nation with putting more costs on the foreign world when we depend on Honda and Toyota and Samsung, right? And iPhones are made in India, right? So that becomes more complicated, right? Because let's say the iPhone gets a tariff and they pay an extra 10%. Well, for that.
Yeah, we're paying 15.
We're paying 15, right? So it's not as clear cut. Macroeconomics are complicated, and Trump is an incredible business person, but I
Mm-hmm.
am not. I don't think he's an economist. And for that
No.
matter, economists are not business people, and they're not tax people. So there's shortfalls everywhere. So I'll share
Yeah.
with this with you. I had have some time with the former CEO of the GO, or Comptroller General of the United States, David Walker. He is a big
Okay.
proponent on all this stuff. This is where it comes down to. All taxes cannot go away because Americans love the things we get with taxes. So this is what people realize. Like, if people truly despise everything about the government, go tell every old person that they don't get Social Security. Go tell all the grandmas and grandpas that they don't get Medicare, Medicaid. Go tell
Mm-hmm.
all special kids needs that they're not going to get SSI. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you have the audacity to go tell them that, then I'll believe that you're okay with getting rid of all taxes. Nobody's going to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, what do I believe is a sustainable solution? Again, purely opinion. Income tax can go away, but sales tax got to go way up.
Yeah. With everything you get rid of, you have to bring something else in, right?
Something
And
has to come in.
the part that I hear about this is the tariffs. I feel like that to a business that hears this is, oh wait, income taxes, more tariffs. We got to bring our products and our manufacturing and these jobs and everything back to the state in some
Yeah.
capacity. We have to get everything we can back into the state so we can maintain a product and then import what we absolutely have to import. But if we can get
Right.
everything from within and source locally from within, that's when I hear tariffs, that's what I really think it means for,
Yeah.
like, to break it down in my head. Like, Trump threatens these not threatens, he's gonna do it. If he really wants to, he's
Yeah.
gonna do it. He did it before. He did a really great job with the tariffs before. But that brought so many jobs back. It stopped companies from going over the border to Mexico or across
Yeah.
seas to the Middle East or to China for more good. And essentially, the tariffs, what they do, at least as I understand them, is they help strengthen from within. They strengthen the
Yes.
American system, our dollar, they strengthen our good, and they strengthen us as a society because we become more self-reliant on ourselves versus becoming reliant on, and we're so reliant on China for so many goods, our plastics, our clothes, our vehicles, and everything. It brings it back to the state. It
Yeah.
creates all these jobs. It creates an economy to where our money stays here. It goes to those companies and whatnot and businesses that are manufacturing products and staying here. And, essentially that would mean things would come down in price,
Yeah.
correct? So if the iPhone had a manufacturer in America, really all they're going to import at that point is probably the stuff for the batteries, like the lithium or the cobalt or something. That's what they're importing at that point. But they could make everything else here, so the iPhone cost would go from $900 to $700, maybe. I don't know.
I think it would go up because unfortunately, American labor is way more expensive. So it's and this is why it gets complicated, right? Like what the cost savings and the iPhone has on India largely is labor. So think about it. They realized that it was cheaper to pay an Indian person and ship it than what it was to pay an American and not ship it. So it's that while I believe that the tariffs could work, I don't think that it will work in an immediate fail swoop. Because right now, with our national debt being so high, we actually would benefit from the tariffs and the taxes, right? Because our debt interest, which I think our national debt is at 35 trillion last I saw. So it's complicated. Right now. So now, could the tariffs work and no income tax work? I think it can, but I do not think it would happen immediately. I think we would have to work our way towards it, right? Is it 35 trillion?
35 trillion. It'll be 36 trillion probably by the morning. So 400 million just got approved to be sent overseas again to Ukraine, and yet only Americans in these areas that were saved by the hurricane can apply for up to $42,500.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough to see that.
And that's what, like, it's really complicated when it comes to macroeconomics, because again, I always go back to, which for that matter, I'll give you guys something, my favorite thing to do. I love getting you to pay no taxes. I will show people how to not pay taxes. I am not pro paying more taxes, but I also understand what taxes do when used correctly and how certain citizens are benefiting from it, right? So if we lower our taxes, this is my view on how to screw the rich in a way. If you don't like paying taxes, you need to learn how to not pay taxes. Because if we all learn to not pay taxes, the tax code would have to change to level the playing field.
100%.
At this point, it benefits those with knowledge. What's that? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I just thought of something else I was asking.
So at this point, it benefits those that know how to do that. So I have a book right here next to me. I always like shouting it out. I literally keep it, Power of Zero, how to get to 0% tax bracket. I teach these principles. So if you can lower your taxes, you're doing your part to protect your family, right, from the evil man of the taxes. And let's say your sales taxes, all these other taxes still go. Got it. No big deal. At the end of the day, if you just put in your mind, my taxes are at least benefiting my grandpa that likes Social Security because he doesn't want to go to work, or that lady that needs Medicare, Medicaid, or our bombs, I don't know, right? Some of it is going to right places. Is our government do a great job managing taxes? Heck no.
No.
Heck no. But it's not as simple as like taxes are all bad, taxes are all good. This is my biggest gripe. People say taxes are bad. I'm like, great, then don't pay them. Well, yeah, but I don't want to do that. I was like, what do you mean? If you don't like taxes, go out of your way to not pay them legally. There's literally a whole book about it. That's how you stick it to the man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how our government is terrible at handling the tax money, right?
Yes.
I would love to see happen someday, and I know it's possible because all things are possible with the right bills and legislation and whatnot. But I would love a society to where we can literally have an input to what we're okay with our taxes going to, where each individual can, every year with their tax form, they fill out every year, and that rolls for the next 1 year, right? are you okay with your taxes going towards Social Security? Check.
Mm-hmm.
Medicaid? Check. Feeding or towards immigration? Not check. Towards try to think of a couple more things here. Toward SSI for special needs children? Check.
Yeah.
Right. Then you have a voice as to where you say your money is going. I want my money to. Do you want, and how much of your tax dollars do you want to go to the federal level, and how much do you want to stay within the state?
Mm-hmm.
You get to pick, different splits, a 50-50, a 60-40, a 70-30, an 80-20, right? Because different states have different needs, right? And so then you can work within your state, things like that. Well, I want 80% of my tax dollars to stay in my state. Okay, of that, and now it just goes deeper and whatnot. And you can always, flirt with these different ideas. Okay, if you're keeping 80% in your state, how much do you want of that 80% to stay in your county, and how much do you want to go to the state in general, kind of thing. And so then it breaks it down to these smaller levels, which directly impact you and your neighbors and your family, versus 100% of the taxes just going to the federal government and you not knowing what goes on with it. And then $400 million goes overseas here, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions goes here, millions goes here, millions goes here, yet none of it feels like it stays in our country. When some of it does. There's a good chunk that does, because, some of that money goes toward manufacturing the weapons that are going to be sent over and things like that. So some of it does stay in our country, which is real. Not all $400 million, let's just say, with Ukraine and whatnot. Not all 400. They're not writing them a check for $400 million, right? A lot of that money is going to go back. It's going to stay in America, and it's going to go to the manufacturing of like weapons and bullets and ammunition and things like that. And then that's what's going to be sent over, kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But I would just love to be able to say, I want my money to go here. I want to stay here.
I think you're onto something, man, because it puts us in a really good spot when we have the control, right? When we have the input of what our money is going to. And I think that a lot of people, I've said this in other podcasts, that I always go back to Europe, right? Europeans have a incredibly high tax rate. So they all complain about how high they are. But at the same time, they're very happy with taxes, with what the taxes do for them, right? Do I think that is a perfect system? No, I don't, right? That's what part of America. But I think that there's a point that if we incentivized a joyous sense of nation, maybe taxation would be different, right? So we cannot be, again, I cannot be all against it, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm in the military. I got paid with tax dollars, right? I always think it's funny, like service members, I hate taxes. I was like, great, then do this for free. I'm not going to do it for free. Then you don't hate taxes. Hate to tell you.
Exactly.
Yeah, you kind of like them, right? So you're at least kind of cool with them. So it would be good to be able to see where Americans love. I mean, and to your point, if at least we knew where Americans liked their taxes going, maybe we could find ways to incentivize the other places. But I think that most Americans have very little confidence in what our government does with our money.
100%. And with how much money we see being sent to all these places, and it's not just Ukraine, it's to Israel, it's to Taiwan, it's to south of the border, it's all over the world, right? With all that money being spent, you would think that would have to be surplus money, right? Like, okay, we have extra to give you, but it's not. So I want to be able to see if that money's going over, okay, then my street should have 0 potholes. I shouldn't see a single homeless person on the street. I shouldn't see anyone out on the corner begging for food or money or things like that. And, we should have 1% unemployment. You know, those are the kind of things that we should see. That's just common sense, right? If there's millions upon millions of dollars being sent all over the place, then where is it going? Where is it going? What about us?
Sure.
That begs the question. It's like the common sense question here is, what about us? What about me? What about my neighbors? What about the mentally ill? What about all those inpatient facilities that we don't see anymore, that all got shut down? And you just sent me the $6.75 trillion goes to help us.
Yeah. If you click on spending, I just sent everybody a link. I just sent them a link. And if you scroll down on spending, I think that to your point, this is something that
I'll do this right here.
like.
Hold on.
I like explaining. You're sharing it?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll pull it up real quick. There we go.
Yeah, let's go. For some reason, I can't see it.
Okay, so I'm right now. I'm hovering over the. It should be there, but okay. So I'm right over the federal spending right now.
Yeah.
And I'm scrolling down. Spending categories.
Yeah.
What does the government buy? Categories. Load. Come on. It's loading. It's loading. It's going. So the people should be able to see it. Top 10 spending by category and agency. Category, okay, 22% Social Security, 14% health, 13% net interest, 13% Medicare, 15% national defense, which seems very, very low. That doesn't seem like nearly enough. 10% income security. And I also feel like Social Security being at 22%, I feel like that number is just going to start dropping off, since a lot of people on it are going to be dropping off.
Yeah, I think, and I've actually heard that it may be going up because of the amount of boomers that are coming, right? Like the great wealth transfers coming right now. But once you see this, I've looked at this chart for the last 2 years. I'm going to make an assumption that all the money that we send to Israel, Ukraine, and a lot of these nations probably comes from the national defense pot, right? Yeah. I'm going to make some assumptions. I can't, which that's what I'm assuming, right? So if we see that, let's say out of that 874 billion, 3% went down to transportation or education, right? Or vets benefits. I don't know. That would be great.
That's a big issue here. Like, there's a huge disparity. Like, it goes from 671 billion in income security and then drops off by more than half to 325 billion for veterans benefits and services. The people who literally put their lives on the line to defend this country in Afghanistan, in all over the world, not just Afghanistan, the Middle East, all over the Middle East for the last however many years. You know, I saw this, it was a meme, but it had a lot of truth to it too. It said 10 new wars, 0, and it was a Kamala, and it was a left, the Democrats, and then the Trump thing. 10 new wars, or 10 wars, 0 federal charges, right? Then it said Trump, 0 new wars, 84 federal charges, or maybe it's like 34. I don't remember. It was either a 3 or an 8. Numbers are hard. That's why I work in mental health. Numbers aren't my thing. But it's like we're feeding a machine here. This is a machine that we're feeding here, and then it goes even lower. Education, training, employment, and social services, 305 billion. So again, it's even lower, but I'm pretty sure that there's a lot more kids that are getting an education right now than there are veterans. You know, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot more kids than there are boomers on Social Security. You know,
perhaps, yeah. And I think that one thing that I want people to realize is that I think it's important to see that we owe a lot of money, and then we're going to start paying for that. And like, to me, the major concern is the net interest, right? Which is due to the responsibility of, what's that?
What's the other? There's like 202 billion other, 223 billion other.
That I don't know. I have not dived into it. Oh, here it is. I'm gonna try to see what it is, if I can find what it is. But the issue is that, like, there's just so much money, but there's, as you can see, there's a big old chunk on things that are important, right? Big old chunk on things that are important. So I think that as a nation, which I put these numbers are the fault of our politicians, right? David Walker has been literally complaining about this for the last 10, 15 years, that we need to have a change, but people don't want to pay more taxes, right? So this is where the issue. If we all pay less taxes, we figured out how the tax code would change. We would all pay more taxes eventually. But we currently need to pay more taxes to lower our debts and deal with our deficit. But none of us want to pay more taxes because we don't want to lose more money. So it's such a complicated problem that, in my opinion, the only way to fix this is as a nation together, right? Like, yo, we are going to suck up these taxes for 10, 15 years, 20 years maybe, but we're going to get out of this hole together. But to that part, maybe that is how to, like, I think that this is maybe something that I think would happen is those tariffs, right? If we slowly started enacted them, like X many dollars, X percentage per year, right? To start bringing more and more jobs back, eventually we would shift and be able to drop the income tax, which would probably incentivize more people to want to come here, right? More good immigration, right? So there's a lot of, it's such a complicated problem, but I think that it all comes down to, if people are seeing this, those net interests, that is a risk to the security of your family. Because
Exactly.
these taxes have to go up.
Exactly. No, I agree. You know, it's a problem, and you know, a lot of this we can correlate. And I feel like I rag on him all the time, but President Lyndon B. Johnson and the creation of the nanny state and the welfare state. You know,
Yeah.
you get what you incentivize, and now we've incentivized this for the last 2 generations now. And look at where it's brought us. You know, I broke this down by agency because I wanted to see this. So $1.72 trillion goes to the Department of Health and Human Services, 1.52 Social Security Administration, and 1.32 trillion goes to the Department of Treasury, which I would assume is like the IRS, and I'm not sure what other like agencies fall under the Department of Treasury, but go down here, only 268 billion go to the Department of Education. I'm not sure what all is in the Department of Treasury, what falls under that, but I feel like you could switch that with the Department of Education. I mean, though the Department of Education is an absolute joke. It needs to be 100% abolished, in my opinion. It does nothing for us. Common Core, No Child Left Behind. I see more and more teachers on TikTok every single day saying that they have third, fourth, fifth grade students, and they're reading at a first or second grade level. The amount of learned helplessness is insane. And so there's some real problems in our education system, and we have fallen so far down the list on the world plane with our education and with our academics, and it's really bad. We're getting beat, and we can't get beat. We can't get beat in a key area. And our colleges are more worried about pushing agendas, pushing LGBTQ plus rights, pushing trans rights, pushing all these different agendas, versus actually educating these young minds to actually go and make a difference and go and create or invent or do all these different amazing, beautiful things that they are more than capable of doing, yet they rather do some form of indoctrination and brainwash versus actually teach and educate and pass on all their great wealth of knowledge into the next generation of students who are going to go and make a difference in the workplace and whatnot. So that's just my opinion. The Department of Education sucks. And then you have $826 billion for the Department of Defense military programs. Again, that could be switched with the Department of Treasury because you know that's pretty important. You know, Department of Defense, pretty big one. And you know, Department of Veterans Affairs, $325 billion. So it drops off by almost 2/3 down to that one. And then it's the Department of Education, and then it's the Department of Agriculture, $203 billion, which everyone here likes to eat, right? You guys all like your strawberries, your blackberries, your veggies, your oranges, your apples, your oranges, your bananas, right? You like paying 68 cents a pound for bananas, kind of thing. Then we kind of need to farm the Department of Agriculture, because if you want to be healthy, you know, I saw this one video. I don't remember who posted it. I'd have to find it. But basically, he's a rancher, right? And he was breaking down what happens on the back end of your ground beef, right? You could have 5 different cows from 5 different farms. 4 of them could be grass-fed. 1 of them could have been just high-end, just amazingly raised. Throw them all in the grinder, and you don't know what kind of meat you're getting, what kind of cow you're getting, right? It's all mixed up. It's all mixed together. And it's like, whoa, wait, they just would do 1 cow? No, they just throw them all together kind of thing, which is crazy. So if you get a pack of steaks and it has 3 steaks, that could be 3 different cows.
Oh, wow. We don't like that.
No, and we don't know how each of those 3 cows were raised.
Yeah.
Right? So it could be if you get a pack of 10 steaks, could be looking at 10 cows. And I'm not exaggerating. I'd have to find who it was. He's a new connection of mine. I've been talking, so I've just been trying to learn about all these different things. But the Department of Agriculture is something that's very important. And there is enough food in the world right now to sustain our population. We don't have any food shortages, which doesn't make sense. Why there are still hungry people all over the place? Like, we don't have these food shortages. It's just gouged and whatnot, and there's so many rules and regulations, things like that, that it's easier to produce ultra processed food than it is to produce actually real quality food. And so I really hope RFK gets some kind of role in all this to help make America healthy again, because again, we get beat in this area so dramatically by other countries of just health and whatnot. And then the Office of Personal Management has $126 billion. Department of Transportation, $117 billion, which again, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Transportation should be up there. It should be higher. Like, we need our roads, we need our infrastructure. I don't know what energy falls under any of these. Department of Homeland Security is $89 billion. So again, that's like our southern border and things like that. Making sure that we, don't have murders and rapists and, gangs commandeering apartment complexes, things like that. That's our Department of Homeland Security. But again, an $89 billion budget for 50 states, spread that across, that's that's like less than $2 billion per state for their Homeland Security. That's not a lot. It goes across the board, right? And so you think about these numbers on like a 50 state kind of, area. So the Department of Veterans Affairs gets $6 billion per state to help the veterans. The I don't know what the veteran hospitals are called. The VAs.
VA, yeah.
So 50 states, they all have VAs. So each state gets $6 billion, right? And if it's a larger state like California or Texas, maybe they get more versus a smaller state like Idaho or something. I don't know how that works. Or North Dakota, depending on population. But if you have more people and you need more resources, but you only have $6 billion to help millions of people within a state, the numbers get smaller and smaller the more you break it down. And just something really interesting. Same for Department of Education. You break $268 billion divided by 50 states, and with so many schools, like we have so many schools. I'm just gonna do some quick math here because I'm just curious now. 268 divided by 50, that's 5.36 billion per state. And I know my area where I'm at here in Washington, between our 4 main school districts that surround me that I know of, we have probably 60 different schools.
Wow.
Between elementary, middle, high school. And so that number gets really small really quickly, very quickly. And so it shows a need to better manage this money and put money into the right places. And of course, you have this mysterious other category of $238 billion. And where's the money that's specifically ear tagged or bookmarked for energy, for drilling, or for manufacturing, or for all these different, infrastructure needs of the state?
Right.
I don't see it. Unless it's hidden in one of these offices and departments. I don't see it.
Yeah. And I don't know where it falls in, to be totally honest with you. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem, right? Like it should be so. That's what I'm saying. That's why I bring it back to this point. And this is just an idea I thought of in the last week while engaging with the trolls over on Twitter. It's like, it's so common sense. It's like, wouldn't it be great if you could check a box, literally 10 boxes. You have to check 5 or 6 of them every single year when you fill out your taxes for the next year, and it renews for the 6 areas, at least 6 areas that you want your tax dollars to go to and how much you want to break it down. It's very similar to like your life insurance payout or an insurance payout of any kind. Your beneficiaries of that money. There's people that are benefiting from this money that we're spending in our tax dollars, and it should be very clear and obvious that we should be able to go and look up this fiscal data from treasury.gov, and we should know exactly where every single dollar is being spent. Yeah. And instead of it literally saying divided into approximately 20 categories, there should be no approximate. There's no approximates with how much taxes I pay, because I approximately pay, this amount of taxes every single paycheck. I approximately have to pay this much in sales tax. There should be no approximately. It should be clear cut and obvious. And that's a problem. If you don't see it as an issue, that you can go to the treasury.gov's website and you find this report that I just showed you guys for the last 10, 15 minutes of the recording while I've been up on my soapbox here, then you should see the problem. You should see the problem here.
The huge problem.
If it
Yeah.
was major, and it's frustrating. I'm not getting all fired up, but it's frustrating.
Yeah. Dude, that's why I'm really big into this finance stuff, man, so we can counter this. Like I see my purpose as like straight countering these issues just so that we can have better families and better futures.
So what are you doing to counter it? How can the average dad that's listening to this, and they're pretty fired up too. They're like, yeah, that's pretty fucking
Yeah.
correct. That got me fired up. That he's onto some good shit right there. That are thinking about that, thinking that to themselves, because I know you are. Trust me. What can the average father do? The average 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, kind of Joe Schmo like myself. What can we do to get some more tools in our toolbox in this area? Because it's something that probably wasn't taught to most men. It's
Yeah.
not taught to most. It's not taught to any children nowadays, except if
Hmm.
they come from a home to where it's taught to them. So what can fathers do? The average father do?
So I'll start with this. Your bank account. You got to have a bank account that is giving you a higher percentage. That's a high yield savings, and I can explain how to use it so all your money goes there. That is the equivalent of getting a 4% raise. A short version, I can almost guarantee a quote unquote 4% raise for just every father. If you want to learn how to do this, just find me on social media or whatever. The next thing is understanding where your money is going in tax deferred, taxable, and tax exempt. This is the difference between a brokerage, a 401k traditional, and your Roth IRA, for example. So majority of your money should be going into taxable and tax exempt, because tax deferred taxes are going up. If you look at the deficit, I don't know how anybody convinced me they're going down. So if they're going up, you should be in tax exempt. There's simple tools for that. Your Roth IRA, 401k, 457, 403b, an HSA, and life insurance. And that allows you to access money tax-free for the rest of your life. If you think life insurance is too expensive, well, you got to figure out how to learn how to use it, because there's ways to do it affordable and create cash out of it. So between the right tools, you can create a lot of wealth. And if you're making under 40K, I think it's 40K, don't quote me on the long-term capital gains taxes, even the brokerage is tax-free. So you got to learn how to use these tools to maximize it. And I'm going to tell you, this is the dirty secret of the whole tax code. Start a business. If you want to learn how I write off all my vacations, how I write off going out to dinners, how I write off my utilities, start a business. And it has to be a flexible business, right? That allows me to write off even more money to keep more money in my pocket, right? So that if I have to pay a tax, is absolutely legal, but I've done everything in my power to keep it away from the government's hand.
That's
That is
important.
the keys for
That's
that. Yeah.
important. So with that, you said a few things here. You said a high yield savings account,
Yep.
a Roth IRA, correct, is what you mentioned here. Life insurance. You mentioned starting a business, which it's fairly easy to start a business. Like you can literally go and start a business for a couple $100 apparently, and
Yeah.
you can high yield savings, a Roth IRA. You can go and start an LLC, and you can get an EIN number, and you can go and take that to the bank, and you can put your stuff under that, and you have an LLC. You still have
Yeah.
to do taxes and stuff for that though, so you do have to be aware that your taxes are going to look a little bit different, but you still have to do taxes and whatnot for that, and those are quarterly taxes if I'm not mistaken, and so those
I
can be.
I don't recall how you pay those. I have a tax planner for that, but the big thing is that you have to be creating income to truly benefit from the tax benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, but you can't use like your typical like 9 to 5 like paycheck then as part
No,
of this.
so that's the biggest difference. It has to be it has to be 1099 income. So W2 income cannot be on a
Gotcha.
LLC, right? Well, take this back. I guess there's ways to do it. That's more complex. Short version, if you're a W2 income earner, you cannot maximize a lot of these business write-offs because you're an employee. But if you're a business owner, you can maximize a lot of these this business tax benefits.
And
Yeah.
so I feel like most people, if they work for a company or whatnot, if they're union or if they work a 9 to 5 with any kind of company, they're gonna have some of these tools already in place for you. with
Sure.
that,
Yes.
Roth IRA or a 401k or a 457 or 403 or 403b life insurance, things like that. Those things are all going to be available. But
Yeah.
how can you use them to benefit you? So if you have these things and you're paying money into them every month, how can someone start to use them?
So the high yield savings is immediate, right? Even though it's going to be increasing your tax bill a little bit, right? But the Roth IRA, Roth 401k, and 457, 403b, you cannot access it until retirement, right? That's the downside. This is where life insurance shines. It's not immediate, but within the 10, 15 years, you'll be able to access the money at 0% or with a variable loan rate. I can explain all this. So it's about using the right tool for the right job. The HSA is mighty because it's tax-free in, tax-free growth, tax-free out. And that you can use it for any medical expense. So if you're putting your money there, you have to have a medical expense, you're at least not paying taxes on it. So it's all of them have their position in the strategy, and they're not quite better than the other, but it's truly about mitigating the future damage. Life insurance just happens to be the one that you can do it in the shortest timeline to access the gains.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
so if someone has a life insurance policy and they're paying into it, so when I hear life insurance, just as like an average, dad here, I hear life insurance and I'm like, oh well, I'm never going to use my own life insurance that I have, that's my own policy for me for when I die, because that's money that I can't access. So how the heck can a dad access, or can a father access their life insurance and make it work for them before they even pass?
So this is the misnomer with life insurance. And one thing I want to clarify. Life insurance, I'm not saying it's better than the Roths. I'm saying that it does different things, right?
Okay.
Now, to use life insurance, it has to be the right kind of life insurance, which is permanent, right? You cannot do it with term. Term does not build cash value. So this is like a whole life VUL, IUL, or UL, right? Whatever. You guys can reach out to me and I can explain it more in detail. Short version, you put in money. Let's say you put in $100. Out of the $100, hopefully a low amount, hopefully $4 or less, goes towards the cost. The remainder gets exposed to either a dividend, a growth rate, an index, whatever, and it compounds. And the more that you put in, the faster it grows. There's a little bit of intricacies when it comes to the design, and it has to be designed right. Right now, there's a lot of people out there peddling life insurance and putting people in some really bad products. So if you want to ever check, if one of you dads wants to check to see if you have a good product, reach out to me. I'll do an assessment and we'll dive into it. I do this all for free. So you guys can just find me on the socials. So the right design is crucial. But guys, I've seen you can send your kids with life insurance. You can buy houses with life insurance. You can buy travel with life insurance. You can retire with life insurance. You can do a lot of things with it. And it has a lot of benefits. It's just different. So for example, because of the tax rules right now, if I had a kid and I had $300 to stash for him, I would put brand new baby. I would put $75 in a 529, and then I would put the rest in a life insurance policy. My kid is bulletproof. He can do whatever he wants at any stage of his life. I'm not saying it's going to grow millions, but it's going to grow a lot between those two.
Oh, absolutely. What are your thoughts on? I'm trying to think of what. So my work has this thing, and I think it's pretty cool. Because it's very unique. I haven't had a place where that does it like this, but and basically what they do with, and I'll share this, what they do with our percentage that we put in. So our company matches up to 3%. So I'm putting in 3%, company matches 3%, so 6%. So 6% goes to this company, but then they invest that money. So it doesn't just, however much money I make goes into this account and it just sits there and then I just add. No, they're taking my money and then they're investing it into stocks and bonds and things like that. And I can pick the level that I want them to do it at. I can pick a level to where it's like very safe and very chill, to where it's, not going to lose a lot, or it's not going to lose it's going to lose very little, if anything. And it's going to grow very, very slowly. I mean, they don't lose it; they get it back. At least to the amount that you put in. But then they invested in bonds and things like that, and so they have different levels. And then there's a moderate level, to where they're a little bit more aggressive with the investment. Quick in, build it, pull it, gain, right? Invest, build it, pull it back.
So
these bonds, these like big time bonds, things like that. And I get a quarterly statement, so I get to see all this. And I think it's really cool. And where the hell was I going with that? No, I just want to know your thoughts on a system that's like that, like kind of one of those
that's
systems
probably a
with the
401k.
401. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
it's probably
401
a
model. Yeah,
401k. They're excellent, but they're renowned for their high fees. That's why I
yeah,
suggest to do it up to the matching. So in your case, you're getting 3% matching, do the 3% matching. And again, if you ever want a review to understand where your money is going and what it's doing, reach out to me. I can help you out with that. That way you understand maybe there's some refinements. Maybe there's some things that can be done to either take more or less risk or save some money with the money that you're putting into it. And again, I'm here to help out and to address that so that we can provide better futures for our kids and our families.
definitely. And I think that's the kind of a common theme that we keep getting here, right? You have to know where your money's going and how it's being spent. That's important
Yes.
to know. And I feel like that's so important, like for our tax dollars. It's something I've been thinking about a lot leading up to this, the last week or so, leading up to this conversation with you tonight. It's just like, I want to know where the heck my money's going. I want to know where my money's going to be spent. I want to know where I'm spending my money so I can track of how much money I'm spending, where I'm spending it, things like that. I don't want just my
Yeah.
money to be spent for me. I mean, I have a wife to do that for me, but
Yeah.
marriage joke there, but and my kids do it for me too. They spend my money before I even know I'm going to spend it,
They're quick with
and
it.
so very quick. And so last thing I want to touch on here, before we wrap up, is what are some really simple, easy ways that fathers can go about teaching their kids about finances and saving and just being responsible with their money?
The Cash Flow Game by Robert Kiyosaki is good. There's a book called My First Finance Book. And the other thing is, instead of having your kids earn an allowance, teach them to be value oriented. So if you are, let's say your kid shows up, it's like, Dad, I threw away the trash. Great. That is $2, right? But what you do is that you incentivize them having initiative, not guaranteed. This is how much you get for doing your chore. Give it value oriented. And then with that, you could also teach them the tax game. It's like, let's say these are your tasks. You could put it on the wall. This is how much you make for all these things. If you do all this is how much you could earn. So instead of paying them $10, maybe it's just $1 for throwing away the trash and these other things. So they do it for the week. And then you can also take away for the taxes. So you can set up a standard income tax in the house of, let's say, 10%, whatever. That way the lowest tax bracket. And what you do is that you take that money and then you save it for them in one of these accounts. So that way you've taught them the benefit of it. So instead of them collecting Social Security when they retire, now they're collecting when they leave the house the benefits of the accounts that they saved into, to understand a little more of the system.
I love that. No, I saw this really funny video that was on X. It was of this mom. She had one of her daughters go and clean all the cabinets in the house, polish them. They look beautiful, right? She got paid $50. And then, so this daughter's also about to turn 18 here within the next, week or two before the election. So we're about 12 days out. She turns 18 sometime between when she posted the video and the election. So she's going to vote, right? And mom was having a conversation with her, like, okay, who are you voting for? And the daughter had planned to vote Democratic. And the mom was Republican. And the mom's like, okay, completely fine. Do you want to clean the cabinets, earn some money, things like that? The girl's like, yeah, sure. And so what the mom did is she paid her, and she's like, okay, I got to take this as tax. She gave her a 10 and 2 20s. She took a 20 as tax, which, however much that is, that seemed like a bit much, but their point is here. And then she took it and she gave it to the sister, who was just sitting around and doing nothing. And so the lesson here was, how does it feel when you work really hard on something, you earn this money, and your taxes is taken and given to people who do nothing? She was like, not good. I'm like, that's what you get when you're voting that side. And I thought it was really funny and
really good,
really accurate. And then the mom asked, so who are you going to be voting for now? She said, I think I'm going to change who I'm going to vote for in a couple of weeks now. And so, again, words talk, numbers scream. So just remember that as you go about it. So any other hacks or anything that you want to share with our listeners today before we wrap this thing up?
No, I think I rather, I don't want to give any other hacks simply because I rather see people apply the things that we just mentioned, right? Or reach
Definitely.
out so that we can set them up. Because if I go much deeper and they haven't applied these things, we haven't found the resources for it, then we can lose it. So yeah, the biggest thing is apply what you've heard here, the high yield savings, Roths, life insurance, all these things that apply them right, understand your taxes, and start creating the wealth for your family. They deserve it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jaime, for sharing your insights and practical advice on finances and fatherhood. And it was a lot of fun jumping into the weeds with you, where the heck our money goes and the government level of it and government spending, things like that. So it was very interesting. It was a very fun conversation. I definitely learned a couple things. We got to have some more conversations, you and I. But for our
For
listeners
sure.
who want to connect and who want to learn more or connect with you, what's the best way to reach you?
I'm in Twitter at Fin Enabler. Instagram is my main one, financial.enabler. I have a Substack. You guys can find it. But yeah, those are the main two places. And pumped to talk to you all.
Awesome. Well, I will link that below for the listeners as well, for them to go ahead and find you over on Instagram and whatnot and connect with you. And make sure you go and follow the podcast over on X and Instagram and wherever you do your social media, things like that. And you can find this podcast everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You can also find it on Rumble. Patriarchy Principle goes out first on Rumble every week when it comes out. So make sure you go over there, follow. And yeah, I think that's it. So
Let's
thank you guys
go.
all for tuning in to Patriarchy Principles. Remember, as fathers and leaders of our homes, it is our responsibility to not only provide, but to also educate and empower our families financially. So until next time, stay strong, stay informed, and lead with purpose.